Hi, welcome to another episode of Swipe Right for Talent, where I'm joined by my co-founder, co-host Sanjeev, and we have a very special guest. Okay, and Akhil, you are really special. So I'm going to let Akhil introduce himself, but just a couple of lines. Akhil Dave has been working on our platform for 6, 7, 8 years, and a very, very accomplished HR professional, worked across India and the US, and also happens to be from my alma mater. So Akhil, always a pleasure to talk to a fellow XLRI graduate, although both of us are now fairly old vintage compared to the 2026 batch.
Yeah.
But yeah, Akhil, over to you. If you can just say a couple of words and introduce yourself, then we'll go from there. It's a action-packed episode that we have planned for the next 25, 30 minutes. But yeah, Akhil, if you can just say a couple of words, and then we'll go from
Well, thank you for having me, first of all, and looking forward to this conversation. Gautam and Sanjeev, we've been speaking for a long, long time now. I think it's probably close to a decade that we're talking. So it's been a long kind of interaction and partnership. A little bit about me. I started my education as an engineer, and then I realized that I'm not going to be a great engineer. So, like any engineer does in India, I had two options to further kind of my misery and do an MS, or to change lanes and do an MBA. So I decided to do an MBA. And that's when I really thought, what do I want to do? I chose HR, did my MBA from XLRI, went over to Unilever for my internship, then my full-time role. Worked with Unilever across different parts of India, in Shanghai, Singapore, then moved on to Cipla, which was just building out its HR team at that time in India. Did about a decade with Cipla across India and US. Worked on standing up their US business. Saw explosive growth, almost close to like 8 to 10x in 8 years. So I was a part of a great growth story. Learned a lot, and then joined Rising Pharmaceuticals, where I'm currently heading up HR globally. Rising Pharmaceuticals is a private equity backed pharmaceuticals company, a mid-sized pharma player, and here I am today. So nice speaking with you guys.
Thank you, Akhil. So let me begin by asking you one question, which I'm sure will be on the minds of several of our listeners. So if you look at people graduating in their MBAs in HR, one is of course a path in India. Of course, in your case, you started here, but then you went out. So was that by design? Like, were you clear that hey, I want to build an international kind of a career, or just it happened by accident and you just went along with the flow?
It actually happened by accident because when I joined Cipla, they didn't even have a US business. So
Okay.
it was never on the cards that, okay, this is the intention to join. The intention was always to build something and, to be able to, uh, you know, be able to create and not just maintain. And I think that intention has kind of shaped most of my career more than any location, kind of aspiration. So it just so happened the opportunity was there. Uh, I, I was recommended, I got interviewed, and that's how it happened.
So if you were to maybe give a piece of advice to younger HR guys who are just graduating in 2026
Yeah.
or graduated a couple of years, how would you compare HR in say the US or even slightly more developed markets like Singapore as compared to India? Because I think you have that unique position of having seen both.
Yeah.
So maybe at a high level, if you can share some of your own experiences and your analysis and readings, I think it would be fairly helpful for people who are, just starting up their careers.
Yeah, no, I think great question. I think India is always a numbers game, right? Because you have typically a larger headcount for a similar sized company as well. Whereas developed markets, the teams run far more leaner. So you have to kind of get more done with less. That's one kind of angle that always stayed with me. I think India is also, quite diverse in its own way, right? We don't appreciate India's diversity when you start going to other markets and start looking at how standardized things are in those countries. But India is in a game of diversity as well. So diversity of thought, culture, there are different state laws, there are different kind of languages. So you have to kind of keep in account a lot of diversity in India. Whereas when you go outside, while there is diversity as well, but there is a lot of standardization. There's a lot of streamlining of how things happen. Approaches are not very different. So I think that's the key thing. I think India is also a kind of a very passionate and very strong on managing emotions and stuff like that. So you got to kind of keep that angle in mind of what drives people is a little different. So I think those are the top three that come to my mind just off the bat.
So, from a pace of growth and excitement perspective, I'm going to put you in
Yeah,
a bit of a spot.
yeah, go for it.
And if you compare compare India, US, of course, you've spent like
Yeah,
decades in the US. So, how would you say? Because of course, as you rightly said, India has more numbers. Maybe some of the companies are even adding manpower much faster, like
yeah.
at a rate which is at a much faster clip than some of the companies in the US. How does that, from an HR perspective, how does that compare for you?
Yeah, so I think the Indian markets are definitely developing, but very, very fast paced. And there's a lot of growth potential as well. I feel there's a lot of activity and a lot of action that we do in India, right? I think we are constantly trying to kind of reimagine, change things, build things as well. So there is fast growth and combined with a lot of action and activity, right? So it makes it a very fast-paced, a very high intensity kind of a work area to be in. Whereas in developed markets, what I've seen is that it is high growth, but it is extremely intentional. So it's very streamlined, it's very focused, and you basically the accuracy rate has to be much higher in a developed market. And I think in India, the ability to manage intensity and capacity should be very good. Those are the two differences I've seen.
So, would it be fair to say that for a HR professional to be successful in India,
Yeah.
the profiles would be slightly separate? Like, in your opinion, would that be a fair statement? Like, the person who's say very successful in India may not be successful in the US and vice versa.
I'll give you an analogy. I mean, take driving, for example, right? In driving in India is extremely complicated. You have to look right, left, behind, ahead. What's the biker gonna do? He's gonna sway in. What's the other car? How close is the car? You're not probably following lanes all the time. But also, if you kind of make a mistake while driving, it's probably not gonna be fatal, right? Whereas in US, driving is very, very streamlined, right? It's completely rule based. If you follow the rules, you can kind of drive without looking over too much. But the consequence of making a mistake is far higher. So I think that's like an analogy to understand, how it is, and that goes across in every stream of walk of life. But yeah, I mean, one can adapt. I mean, I've people have driven both in India and US, so it's not difficult to adapt. Those skills can be built. It's just you need to kind of change your approach a little bit.
That's interesting. Thank you. I think, Sanjeev, you had a whole host of questions for Akhil. You guys have known each other for a long, long time. So, over to you, Sanjeev.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, thanks for doing it, Akhil. So yeah, I know Akhil. I think Cipla was our first US client, as Akhil knows, right? And I think the first actual HR person I actually went and showed or presented CBREX to is Akhil, and I do it on a board and et cetera, et cetera. And I think Akhil was, if not more, at least I excited I was seeing what we've built, right? And the rest followed, right? So I mean, since then, Akhil, I know, I think it was 2017. Since then, till you think now, what are the changes that you've seen in the talent acquisition space in the US, right? What do you think is changed or hasn't anything changed, right? And now with AI and et cetera, coming in, what do you think the landscape looks like when you entered America and now that you're head of HR for Rising?
Yeah, I mean, a lot has changed, I would say, because we've gone through so many of these marquee movements, right? We've gone through, labor shortage, then we've gone through great resignation, then gotten the era of job hugging, where, jobs are kind of being held by people. So we've gone through many of these eras, and that every era shapes talent acquisition. I think it's been like you go through this boom and bust periods in talent acquisition, which is very clear, where you have a lot of roles and you have far too few people, and then you have limited roles coming out. In the AI era, I think what's changing is it's almost like I feel like there's a big opportunity, of course, to streamline things and to get advantage. But I feel a little, kind of little crisis is brewing too, because you have candidates who are embellishing their resumes with AI buzzwords, and then you have recruiters who are using these systems for screening. So you have a situation where it's almost like you can't trust the source, you can't trust the output, so you need a little bit more verification. So it's kind of ironic because I understand that AI was supposed to, make it much more easy. I think that's made it much more easy. So it's optimized for time. AI is optimized for cost of hiring, but the quality of hiring, right? And TQC, typically three things you look for in anything. So time is optimized, cost is optimized, quality, I think it still needs a little bit more work, which is where the human in the loop angle kind of comes in, and which is where we need to kind of make sure that, hey, this is the right person for us, and the resume was in fact correct, and the buzzwords are in fact backed by real stories and real experiences. So I think that's the change that I see right now.
Okay, so what essentially you're saying is that the product that's a human on ground may not be the same that he was on paper because of this whole AI thing.
Right.
And you actually deep dive more. So you spend, in the whole scheme of things, you end up spending more time to search the right guy, even if everything else looks good on paper, right? Is that something which
Yeah, I mean, think of it
which
this
you've
way.
seen in the last?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, think of it this way, like 6 years back, if I had a resume, I would probably trust it to a 85% level or 90% level, right? Because I would think, okay, fine, this is fairly accurate. And the quality of the resume was also a give, right? The quality of resume, you could see the differences in quality of resume. So you could see, okay, this is a high quality resume, this is not such a high quality resume. So you could start your assessment right from there. Now, if you look at the resumes, almost all resumes look high quality, right? There is no difference in perceived quality. so, so you kind of, that filtering is kind of gone away. Everyone's using these buzzwords. Everyone seems to be a strategic leader. Everyone seems to be an innovator. So they've got all the right buzzwords, but is that possible, right? Do we have an explosion of talent, or do we have an explosion of buzzwords? So it makes it that much more difficult to kind of be very sure just by resume.
So high quality resume doesn't equal to high quality outcome, right? Like it used
Not
to be.
anymore.
Got it. I mean, that's very interesting, right? So I don't know if so. Obviously, we keep on saying stuff and speaking to people, and a lot of people have this whole analogy that nowadays AI has become so significant and makes lives easier. But looks like in the talent acquisition space, you have a different outlook to it, which makes sense, right? Which makes sense. I mean, everything is so picture perfect, which actually on ground doesn't be. So I think that's a great one. So yeah, I think Gautam, anything else that you wanna touch upon? I think go ahead. Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, no, I think that's it's a great point. And Akhil, wanted to run you through one of the things that we were internally looking at is called the recruiter paradox, saying that the more AI is used, the quality of resumes will become better. And as you rightly said, people will find creative ways of of manipulating their resumes. Actually, the human recruiter's value will actually increase because now you have a situation where all the resumes look the same, right? I mean, there is no difference because people just
Exactly.
look at a JD, extract the keywords, and ask Claude or whatever LLM to create the resume, which will match this keyword.
And Gautam,
So
guess what?
increasingly, resumes will become
The JD is also written by AI. So
correct. So JD by AI,
yeah.
resume by AI,
Yes.
and screening by AI.
Yes.
So,
and
so
you
all
human
three.
being, not AI.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So actually, our thesis, and I wanted to get your perspective, was that as this rolls on in the next maybe 12 to 18 months, right, it will be all pervasive, right? It'll be everywhere. It's already everywhere. Obviously, it'll become even more and more.
Right.
So then the human recruiter will actually become more valuable because there is a human eye which will be able to separate, the trash from the value. And there will be a lot of trash.
Yes.
The trash will keep on increasing because people are applying to 200 companies in 5 minutes because they're having AI agents just send resumes to multiple companies. Right. So the trash is keeps going up. So that's been our reading. I just want to get your sense, like as a practitioner on the ground, and seeing this on a daily basis. I'm sure you are inundated with very many of these AI fabricated profiles.
Yeah,
What is your take on this?
I totally agree, in fact. So because what's happened is that as I said, the time and cost has gone down. So you've gotten that advantage. So one can say that, yes, I can now screen at a much faster rate, right, compared to what I used to do earlier. So going through like 50 resumes used to take a while, but now I can get it in like 5 minutes. So that screening time is reduced. But how do I discern quality has become a challenge that recruiters need to unpack now. And this is a new challenge. Because initially you could screen at a resume level and you can understand what the quality is. But now if the resumes are all on par, created by the same cloud, you kind of then start looking at, okay, fine, what quality of experience am I looking at? What are the kind of organizations that I'm trying to benchmark against? You're trying to kind of gather what educational qualification will be best suited. You're trying to see the depth of experience. And then the conversation becomes even more important now more than ever, right? Just to kind of discern that, okay, is this person the same person on paper and in real life? And is this the person who is a fit? I think the question of fitment, culture fitment, or job fitment becomes very, very important, which is where a recruiter comes in and the conversation comes in.
And do you think as AI bots become more and more commonplace, right, and they start doing these first level interviews, quote unquote, so as to say, how do you think that is going to play out? Because most companies, and I'm sure you guys are also exploring or already have put in place that first level screen through a bot or through an automated kind of a system. Do you think they will be able to crack this, the fake or the fabricated guys, better? Or what is your whole view on this AI bot doing first level screens on a
Yeah.
voice basis?
Listen, the good news is the industry is definitely evolving and kind of trying to solve this challenge. If you look at the acquisition of Paradox by Workday, that's a company that does video interviews and exactly what you're saying. And I think that I read some stat which says that close to 10% of interviews in US are now done through like these kind of bots. And Paradox is one of the prime examples. They're doing a good job, and they kind of capture at least the live kind of interaction that happens between the bot and the candidate. And I think they also have features to pick up on like tone and communication skills and stuff like that. So they're doing a good job to kind of act as a filter. If you have 100 jobs to hire for, you probably need that to as an additional filter. But those additional filters will help you assess the quality better. But when it comes to like non-mastery roles or niche roles or leadership roles, I think you still have to rely on a person to come in and have the conversation. But there are solutions that are coming up to solve the quality challenge as well. So the industry is waking up to it. But the adoption curve is really sketchy, right? I mean, many people are still at a stage where they're using AI just for drafting emails and doing a chat interaction. Then there is some companies who are using agentic AI. There are some companies who are graduated to this level where they have this, streamlining scheduling interviews, and then you have this video platforms as well to interview and give you summaries. So I think we're still in the adoption curve. We're pretty behind on the adoption curve, I would say. Not more than half of the companies are using AI right now, so it's pretty low. And the companies that are using all of the capabilities that AI has, my guess is going to be less than 10% right now, from an HR talent acquisition standpoint.
Where are you guys using AI the most? Like in your TA funnel,
Yeah.
if you look at Rising, where is it that you've looked at which piece of this funnel, sourcing, screening, and there are many pieces where you think AI is a good fit at least as far as your organization?
Yeah, so we are using it for screening and sourcing right now, mainly. So we are not using it for video interviews or anything of that sort. But for sourcing and screening, I think it's a great tool. For interviews and for conversations, since we don't have that much of a volume of roles, we kind of prefer the human touch still.
Good. I think that gave me good sense on where you guys are on AI. Sanjeev, over to you. Some more questions, and then I'll come back and ask you for some career advice for people. But yeah, Sanjeev,
Yeah, no,
you
so
want
sticking to the sourcing thing, right? So now that you're using it yourself, right? What is your, in a percentile basis, right? What is your hit and miss, right? Is it more hit or more
Yeah,
miss?
good question. I think it's really 50-50, honestly. I mean, it's not really that great because what happens, I mean, for sourcing, we don't really have, first of all, we don't really have a lot of solutions that we are using right now. We're trying to home build some solutions on how do we kind of streamline sourcing. Of course, LinkedIn APIs are no help because they kick you out. They don't allow you to. There is no open source. What I'm realizing, there's no open source kind of avenue of getting candidates that is as vast as LinkedIn. There are some out there, but nothing as vast as LinkedIn. So you still have to rely on the clunky LinkedIn recruiter feature to source candidates. They've kind of built some AI tools in there, but I think for the mass majority, we are stuck with that. So there's no like big solution out there which solves this sourcing problem, and hence it's still a hit or miss. But yeah, I'm guessing the space is going to get better. I'm waiting for LinkedIn to really upgrade its recruiter and recruiter light modules in a big way because they have all the data. They can do it. I'm sure they can add a lot more features if they want to. But if you look at the introduction of AI on LinkedIn Recruiter is really minimal, which is surprising. So
Okay. So my follow-up question is that I know, I mean, pharma and manufacturing has been your forte, right? Since I know you, and in the pharma and whatever we've done right together or with other companies that we work in the US in the pharma or manufacturing space, the line guys, right? The guys who actually, working on the lines are people who are the essential backbone of a pharma or a
yeah,
manufacturing. Has that been affected negatively, positively? Because is that something which you think AI has got any benefit to, or there's nothing? It's status quo has been the way it is. In that particular area of manufacturing, or what is your take on that, right? Because I can't get my head wrapped around, and we've done so many of them right now, right, in the US, that how is it helping or not helping? So your point of view would be great.
yeah, I think this is a big space right for disruption because a lot of the kind of talent on the front, on the shop floor or the front line, may or may not have like a LinkedIn profile. A lot of these folks you'll find on Indeed, probably in US. That's probably become a source of talent, but not really. A lot of them are still on LinkedIn. This is a space ripe for kind of built out by some company where they aggregate all of the employees or all of the people candidates who work in these setups and to create a separate platform and maybe have AI kind of explore that space. There are some small solutions here and there which are trying that, but I think there is no one answer there. So it's still kind of pretty much status quo. I don't think it has disrupted as much as the middle and senior level hiring.
For me, we can keep talking, right? But in such of
Yeah.
time, Gautam, over to you, right? And
yeah. So I'm going to change track a bit, Akhil, and I'm going to get into ask you to put on your mentorship kind of hat,
Hmm.
right? So there's a lot of angst for people passing out, graduating, and I'm sure you've heard of it, read about it this year, last year, because of AI in terms of job creation, right? And that's a very basic problem, okay? And it's worrying, right? Because young kids passing out of graduating out of universities and colleges and finding it difficult to get jobs, it's a matter of concern for everyone,
Right.
because that's how that's how we move forward, right? I mean, these guys have to get jobs, and when you and I and Sanjeev, when we graduated, things were very different, right? There was no AI. It was a different world, and now it is a different world. So if you were to first of all put your mentorship and your recruiting hat on, and say you're talking to a 24-year-old or a 23-year-old just graduating MBA or undergrad from a leading university or college, looking at a career in HR or in TA, what would be some pieces of advice that you would give that person, in terms of adapting to how the world is going to shape up for the next, say, 20, 30 years?
Yeah. 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 I think the larger point first, right? I feel like, yes, there's a lot of job loss discussion happening with AI. But I think it's more than job loss, it's job displacement. I think that's the world we're living in, or we're going to live in for the next 5 to 10 years. I'll give you an example. I mean, software engineers is one job people are saying that there's going to be a job loss because Cloud Code is here, Cursor is here, and that these solutions are kind of removing the need for entry-level software engineers. But companies are hiring software engineers for the first time, who were never hired. For example, being a pharmaceutical company, we've had a software engineer, right? We've never had a software engineer in our lives before. The reason why we hired one is because we wanted to build homegrown modules, our own, and we need forward deployment engineers to kind of come and build those for us, build niche solutions for us. So now, if you look at a software engineer, they can look at a tech company and say, okay, the jobs in this tech company have gone down, but there are all of these opportunities that opened up in other companies, which never existed, right? So imagine multiple pharma companies hiring forward deployment engineers. So there has been job displacement, not job loss. I think and that is the perspective to keep in mind, that okay, the jobs may not be where we always have looked for them, but are they somewhere else? Have they originated somewhere else where we are not kind of tapping into the opportunities? That's one kind of mindset I would ask people to keep their eyes open to. The second approach is the bar is raised clearly. So the expectations of what an entry-level HR person could do has raised. And you have to kind of acknowledge that, realize that, and start operating at that level, which means you need to kind of adapt to the skills that AI world requires. You need to understand all the models, which model works best. You need to be able to create basic slides and Excels very, very quickly now. You need to kind of understand how agents are created. You need to understand how bots are created. So I think those have become like fundamental table stakes now. Any role that we hire, any function that we hire for at an entry level, we'll expect them to be an AI whiz, because that's the edge we expect them to bring to the table. So develop that edge. That's completely in your hands. Is what I'll tell to the folks who are graduating now. Look for the jobs not in the traditional spaces, but in the new spaces. There is a Cambrian explosion of startup ecosystem happening. So maybe tap into that as well. So there are opportunities if you're looking in the right places and if you build the right skill sets. But know that the bar is raised for sure, right? The floor is kind of raising. And the third thing I'll say is that I think it's important for new HR professionals to also find a way to build their skills. I mean, take this example of resumes that we're talking about. For a recruiter, one of the early skills they build is by parsing through 200 resumes and developing that pattern recognition and thoughts of what's good, what's not good. But now if you plop it in AI, you'll miss out on that early skill building. So I think intentional learning becomes very important for entry level folks. They have to kind of slow down a little bit where they can. So while they have to do a quick recruitment and they just tell the AI to look at 20 profiles, I would say find the time to sit with the 20 profiles and go through it yourself. Go through each and every resume, read it word by word, develop that pattern recognition mind and that skill, which will kind of help you verify the output of AI. Because if you can't verify what the AI is throwing out, then you're not really adding much value from a quality standpoint. So I would say those 2-3 things to keep in mind for graduates who are coming out right now.
So let me unpack this very interesting points, and we'll go through one by one because this is important. So let's look at the job displacement and then we'll come to the HR piece. So that's a very interesting point. So would it be fair to say that what you're trying to say is that software engineers will be in demand, but they may not be by software companies? So you can have pharma companies and so on, manufacturing companies, steel manufacturing and so on, who will also need software guys, because now you can have 5 people do the work of 50.
Exactly.
So therefore, you don't need an army of 50 people to build your software. You need an army of, or whatever, a small group of 5.
Exactly.
But you still need those 5 people. Your reading is that it's just that those 5 people earlier would have joined a software company, and now they are joining a company like Rising or other pharma companies.
Exactly.
Would that be a fair restatement of what you're saying?
Absolutely, it's already happening. I mean, the kind of stuff that we have done, we would have kind of hired a couple of external vendors to do this for us, and it would have taken probably much longer. But now we are able to do it in-house and much quicker and customized to what we want it to be. So hyper customization. Because if you do go through a vendor, they'll kind of say, okay, this is our product. We'll customize it to some extent. Now you can build your own product. So I think that's a very big difference, and you need software engineers or full stack engineers to kind of get hired for that.
So would it be fair to say, taking it one step forward, and this is now becoming really interesting, would it be fair to say that even pharmaceutical companies can actually now become software product companies? Like they can create products for themselves in house, right? Which now they don't need to approach, say, external vendors or external product companies to do that for them. And these products, because they are creating the product, they are the users. Obviously, it will be far more customized. Taking into all the inputs that your company has for that matter. Would that be like some way? Would that be? Of course, we're doing some crystal
Yeah.
ball gazing here, but it's an interesting thought. I just thought I'll take it one
Yeah, no,
step
I think
forward.
they could, but they probably won't do it because they will continue to stay in the business that they are in. So pharma companies, if they want to, I mean, for example, if we want to, we have developed such marquee tech products that we could outsource them as well. But that's not the business that we want to get into. But what companies will
Correct.
do is they'll kind of use that to advance their edge, because you can kind of get an edge over your competitors by building those products now. Your speed to market becomes much faster, your supply chain efficiencies become much better. Your customer kind of responsiveness becomes much sharper. And I think those become like the value differentiators now for the companies. So the companies that do it
Interesting.
will have more value differentiators, more edge over time. And they'll probably not become those product companies, but they could if they wanted.
That's very interesting, actually, because it's a completely, and we'll stop here because this can become a topic on its own
Yes.
and probably take the next 2 hours. But it's a very interesting thought, and we'll pause. I just want to now switch to your other part, which was the HR folks and the people who are graduating. So if a guy is graduating from XLRI in 2026, okay, of course, I think the placement should have already got over because we are in July. So maybe 2027 next year, January, February, when the placement season happens. Would it be fair to say, or rather fair to restate what you're saying, that unless that HR person has got an AI skill attached to his or her resume, the marketability of that person in the market will come down? Would that be a fair way to interpret what you were saying about 5 minutes ago?
I would think so, because it shows willingness or no lack of it. If you haven't built those AI skills, it tells me that okay, you're not willing to participate in this ecosystem and in the cutting edge of technology that's going on right now. So I would say that the marketability does drop. And I think this is a great time. I mean, do your projects using AI. Build chatbots. It's not so difficult to build chatbots anymore like it was 5 years back. Think of agentic workflows. You can build a lot right now. So I would definitely urge people to kind of get on that bandwagon. You should be on the cutting edge. You should be looking at what's the latest and greatest happening in this space of AI, and keep yourself updated, because that's the edge you bring to the table. So I think one should do that, and I think someone who doesn't have that, now of course what's going to happen is everyone's going to have like 20 AI buzzwords on their resumes. So I'm not saying go for volume, but build a couple of things. I would say the best indicator is if you build something real and if you can demo it. That tells me that okay, you definitely have that skill. Otherwise, you can say, okay, I use AI analytics, I use AI this, I use AI that. But if you have developed something, you would definitely remember that whole experience end to end, and you would definitely have explored, what's the latest and greatest to build this AI solution on. So for me, that's the number one thing. If I see something like someone has built, then for me, okay, I want to understand that more, and that will be a differentiator.
Great. So let me again put you in a bit of a spot. So supposing you are sitting in XRI on the other side of the table doing an interview in 2027 for a person who wants to join your company,
Mm-hmm.
and that's an HR person. What would be that one thing you're saying build? So would it be fair to say that in your interview process you would actually want that person to demonstrate something that he or she has created, which is using AI? Like, would that be a fair, or I don't want to put words in your mouth. You can give me some other answer, but the idea is that I would like to get something specific because it will help, students who are currently on campus to really see, develop these skills when they go for campus interviews in the next 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
Because you are a recruiter, right? And you would be on campus at some point. So what would be that couple of things that would matter for you, where you would say, yeah, this person I would like to hire?
Yeah, I think I would say AI is necessary, but not sufficient, right? So that skill of building something is necessary, but it's not that I'll hire someone solely based on that. So it's necessary, but not sufficient. I mean, what I would look for is the company that you're interviewing for, you should know that company as well as you can, because that shows your, again, willingness to understand the business. And if you are an HR professional who's willing to understand business, who's willing to kind of understand what business you're in, that tells me that you continue that mindset. Versus if you're an HR professional who doesn't have that willingness to go deep into the business, then I fear that you might become a checklist HR person, right? You'll have 10-point checklist and you'll say, okay, tick, tick, tick. So I think that understanding of the business and being able to at least have a conversation on what the company is about and what's the business we're in, what's the latest that's going on. I think that's important. Having your functional depth, right? Knowing your function very well, so that because when you're getting into a function like HR, you have to be an expert. So how well do you know your function? Have you done your studies well? You may not be the top ranker, but if you know your function well enough to engage in it and speak to it logically, I appreciate that. And I think someone who's just confident, communicative, has built AI. I would say these 4-5 things. I mean, sometimes I just kind of bring it down to PhD. I call it the PhD principle. That if someone has the PhD, we can hire them, which is pride, hustle, determination. So, so not the
That's a
classic
good one.
PhD. Yeah.
That's a really good one.
That's
Yeah.
a that's a really good
If you
one.
have pride, if you have
You
hustle,
should patent it, Akhil.
Yeah,
yeah.
you
You
should
should
patent it.
patent it.
Correct.
So I think if you have those in you, and if you have like willingness, I think that's what I'm really trying to see in the interview at the entry level. How willing are you? How engaged are you? Because I've also seen in entry level interviews, some people are already jaded, cynical, and they're like not even willing to, get into the weeds. So that's definitely not a great sign for me.
So this was very interesting. Sanjeev, any questions from your end?
No, I think we've covered what we can, and like I said, we can just go on and on, right? But I think I'm done from my end. We'll have this conversation, probably a follow up sometime. But yeah, for now, I will definitely. And thanks for doing this, Atul. So yeah,
Yeah,
Thanks again
thanks a
for
lot,
that's
having
it
Akhil.
me.
for me.
This has been
Yeah,
really nice. Enjoyed the laughter
yeah.
and the PhD,
Yeah.
Correct.
which we will we'll use
and
in this
and
episode in some form. Yeah,
and the driving analogy, right? Well,
yeah, and the
America
driving.
versus
Oh, that
India.
was a good one. I
That was
agree.
very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a very nice way to.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Akhil.
No, thank you. With
Thanks.
you
Thanks.
guys, it
Thanks.
never feels like a podcast. It's like we're having another conversation that we always have. So thank you for having me once again.
Yeah. We're only missing the
Like,
beard.
That's it.
likewise. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Thank
soon
you.
enough.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right.
Perfect. Thanks again, guys. See you.
Bye bye.
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 Bye. Have a good one. Bye bye.